Yes, people. Welcome to AFC Talk Show TV with your boy MK the Don. I'm just going to quickly get through the comments. Make sure you like and subscribe. Hold on, let me just sort out this quick. It's not the right thing I need. Hold on a minute. Yeah, make sure you like and subscribe. That's better. There we go. That's what I needed. Big up my guy as always join in. You know what to do. Smash the like button. Got to get straight in it today. Of course, Arsenal review. There's only one man who I could bring in who can give honest and not harsh, but fair criticism of the team. One man who's been on here many times. He's an absolute regular on the show. It is the man himself, Manny. Manny, welcome, my bro.
Good evening to you, mate, and always good to be in your company. A nice, relaxing Sunday evening before the grind starts again. And I love how you said fair, not harsh, but fair criticism and honest criticism.
Definitely.
I'm going to be honest and say that there were times this season when sometimes I've allowed my criticism of a few players to be a little bit slightly over the top, but. For the most part, I would say that my observations were not without merit. And I'm willing to give credit where it's due, but I'm also willing to offer criticism where it is more than due. And that is one of the reasons why people like you and myself will never be on any of those mainstream networks being offered journalism
Sky
gigs.
Sports but around here.
no Football London either. But listen, we need to make sure that we keep producing content like this and making ourselves seen and heard. And the more people who see and hear us, if any, the better.
Exactly that. Obviously, we will get straight into it. Obviously, we're just going to do a Premier League review of the season. So we're going to get into goalkeeper. Obviously, it was just Ramsdale. I don't think Turner actually played a minute. I was quite disappointed that Turner didn't even get a game against Wolves. But yeah, Ramsdale, I've been a big praise of him, and I've also gave him some stick. But I have to say that he's pulled off some absolute blinding saves this season. Salah's one when it was 2-2, the deflected shot. Another one that I can think of is the one against Manchester United at the Emirates, when Rashford, another deflected shot, I believe, as well. My opinion, Ramsdale's been one of our top ballers this year. I'm happy that he's got a new contract long term, but of course there's still stuff to improve. He looks shaky at times. But for me, I'm going to give him a rating of 8. I think he's a fantastic player. I think he's an absolute baller. He's got the potential. He's got everything, and I'm so happy that he's staying. But at his age, obviously, you don't hit your prime until you're at least like 30, goalkeepers anyway. So I do think he'll get better, and I do believe that he can do it. At the end of the day, bro, he's learning off one of the best, David Seaman. Seaman's all around that training ground. He's constantly chatting to Seaman. So I have to trust my legend, and I do trust Seaman. I do trust him. But yeah, 8 for me. What about you, Manny?
Yeah, here's the thing with Ramsdale, and I think Ollie will be among the first to tell you that when it comes to him, I tend to go back and forth with him, because in as much as I do agree that he is a talented goalkeeper, there are just some things about him that I don't really like. And I remember saying on Del Boy's stream that at times he shows that he has a bit of an attitude problem. But anyway, before we actually go a little bit further, I want to actually say congratulations to him and his partner, Miss Irwin. They are expecting their first child. I believe it has been confirmed that his partner is pregnant. So Aaron, Georgina, congratulations to you both. I wish you both happy family life, parenting life, and I hope that the arrival of a newcomer to your family will offer you some peace and a new perspective, and hopefully a reminder that there are some very important things on which to focus, and the football simply isn't the be-all and end-all. Now, back to Ramsdale, of course. a lot of people seem to sort of take for granted that because he's at a young age and doing really well, he can only really get better. But the problem with him is there was a reason, MK, why several people, myself included, were not too keen on signing him. And when you consider, when you take a look at the fact that he's had, 2 full season relegations and 1 other relegation with Chesterfield in the Football League, where he played a half the season as they went down. I'm always iffy about certain keepers like that because, in as much as people might like to think that they're good at making saves, they also let some more goals in. And the thing about David Seaman was that he had the ability not only to make sure that he covered his angles well, made himself exceptionally big, and cut down. Didn't really make too many mistakes. He never had to make a camera save unless it was necessary. But he also technically perfect. He also had the ability to command his defense really well. And when he came in and replaced John Lukic in the 1990-1991 season, people were still up in arms at the sale of the popular former goalkeeper back to Leeds after winning the league title in 1989. But with Seaman, he just joined in, fit into that team seamlessly, just like a hand in a glove, and kept. I think he didn't even concede 20 goals that season, as we crushed Liverpool for the second time. We beat Liverpool for the second time in 3 seasons, and could afford to have a title party at the end of the season against Coventry City, which featured another ex-gunner in Kenny Sansom, another legend playing for them.
Sorry, Manny, I'm just having bloody AFC Flair pop up on the back room calling me a CUNT. So I'm just, if my head goes down, he just keeps popping into it and just showing a little message and then going out. But
yeah, I mean, it's a bit like some of those annoying friends who leave you annoying messages on your mobile phone. Yeah,
just
but it is what it is. With Ramsdale, he's 6'2". And the thing about him is that not only doesn't he really dominate that much on crosses, he has a few technical deficiencies. And I think you and I were discussing the goal he conceded against Jared Bowen at I think it was the London Stadium when we went to play West Ham. When he was sort of, in position for that goal, he had a huge gap between his legs. And when you leave that gap between your legs, you're not really steady, as you and I can agree. And there are some simple mistakes he makes where he ends up conceding some goals that make him look rather silly, but he balances that out more by making more saves in a game. That all of those mistakes tend to go under the radar. But if you've got a keen eye for goalkeeping like you and myself, you do notice some of those things. It just begs the question: what does he do on the training field? So I firmly believe that he does have a lot on which he has to improve. He also really needs to keep his attitude in check, because there have been times where I have to say he's acted like a little bit of a pork chop. And I think it's fair to say that if we want to give him some credit for those 2 brilliant saves he made against Liverpool in the dying minutes from Mohamed Salah and Ibrahim Konate, then we also have to make sure we also have to be fair-minded enough to say that he deserves criticism for his performances against West Ham and Southampton, and also against Manchester City. I felt that there were 2 of those 4 goals he really should have done a lot better. So there is a great deal of room for improvement. And yes, he's 25, and goalkeepers in theory hit their peak when they approach their 30s. But that doesn't mean that you can just take it for granted that you can coast for the first few years and then improve, because you never know what can happen. Paul Robinson is a guy that springs to mind. Everybody rated him so highly. Everyone thought he was going to be one of England's finest. But after the 2006 World Cup, he never kicked on. And, he ended up being a huge what might have been. I don't want that to happen to Ramsdale.
No,
I think if he improves his, if he eliminates his deficiencies and really starts to improve himself and make the best of whatever ability he has, and also leads us to more consistent performances and winning trophies, I'm willing to hold my hand up and say, you know what, Aaron, you proved me wrong. I'm happy to chew down some humble pie for you. You deserve all the credit you can get. But until then, he's got a lot to improve on. But I'm prepared actually to give him a rating of 7, which is certainly not bad by any means, but not as high as 8.
from what you were saying, actually, I want to bring mine down to a 7, to be fair, because what you were saying is definite. I actually totally forgot about the West Ham and Southampton and the 2 goals at City, but you remind me there. And to be honest, it is true. He does have a lot of potential, but like you said, you don't want him to not reach it. You know what I mean? So hopefully he'll go in, have a good break this week. Sorry, get back out to England. He has to go there again. There's just so much football constantly, even through the summer. They've only got a week off until they're back with England boys.
Yeah.
So he hasn't got a lot of time to refresh. Neither has Saka, which is disappointing. But with Ramsdale, I think his mentality of winning, he wants to win. Oh, my dog's going off. He doesn't like losing, which no one really does. But he's proper against it. And to be honest, when I've seen him, because I sometimes just look directly towards him when we're defending, I look at what he's doing, what his movement is, and where he's positioning his defenders on corners. Is he loud? Is he coming and catching? He's catching. He's terrible. Let's get that in. He made a couple of ones where he could have caught it and he ended up punching it. And all I'm saying is Matt Turner in the Europa League was coming out catching them balls, and trust me, them balls ain't nice. Like Paul's.
No, they're not.
That one. Them footballs ain't good. Yeah,
I agree. And don't get me wrong. Listen, don't get me wrong. There's nothing necessarily wrong with punching everything out. I mean, obviously, it's disappointing for me personally because we both grew up watching David Seaman catch everything he could get. Of course, 6'4".
Yeah.
If you're that tall, you should be dominant in the air, and that's exactly what he was with his size and his frame. But if you have to punch them out, just be prepared to punch them. Don't try to be a Superman and catch them when you know you don't really have that much in terms of chance. So he's got to improve his decision making on many occasions. Hopefully that will come with age. And I know a lot of people are willing to give him some credit, saying, well, he's very integral to the system that we're playing. But I don't just want my players to be system players. I want them to be proper players in their own right. Because let's say if the worst happens and they're out of that system and they go to another club where they're expected to, just work on the basics a lot more. I mean, obviously, keepers are expected to play out from the back. But you've got to have some strong basic foundations as well. So I'm prepared to give him a 7. I know I've been harsh in my criticism of him at times, but overall, when I take a look at the saves he's made and how he does have potential to improve, I'm willing to give him a 7. But next season, he really has to kick on, and next season he's going to be one of those players who will be under the radar. Believe you me.
Oh, yeah, it's a make or break, to be honest, for him. Yeah, it is literally a make or break for him. Let's move on to the defenders. Obviously, Ramsdale, I'm glad that you're signed your contract. Congratulations to you and your girlfriend as well. Trust me, being a dad is amazing. Trust me on that one, mate. Now, defenders. We'll start with Benny Blanco, the man who I did not like last season.
None of us did.
The man who made me think, oh my goodness me, why is Saliba not in this team? And right back, he has had some shaky games, in my opinion. He has had some very shaky games, but he's also had some really good games. And since Saliba got injured, he looked very, very shaky. So this rating's going to seem quite harsh, but it's not. I'm just going to give him a standard down the middle 5, quite honestly, because the first part of the season was decent from him. But the second part, I know Saliba's was took out. I know Saliba got injured and he's missed. But really, you're looking for your players to stand up and show a bit of, you know what I mean? But he didn't do that. And I think maybe it was because Holding was next to him. We'll come on to Bolding in a minute. But I didn't feel as confident with him next to Holding as I did with Saliba next to him, you know what I mean? Because Saliba used to come on. If Ben White got caught out, then Saliba would be there covering, you know? Exactly. So it's like, I'm going to give him a 5. It may sound harsh. It probably is a little bit harsh. But that's just the way I see it at the moment. The first part of the season, he done really, really well. And then even the second part of the season, the start of the second part of the season, he done really well. But then all of a sudden, Saliba got injured. Tomiyasu got injured. we struggled. I don't know whether it was because maybe if Tomiyasu wasn't injured, maybe Tommy could have slipped into right centre back, and then that would have kept White out on the right more. But in the end, we just sort of ended up trying to play Thomas Partey in a bloody inverted right back role, which I didn't think it made any sense towards me, to be honest. But I do think I'm just going to give him a 5 because it has been a decent season for him, but I can't put him any higher because we didn't win nothing, you know?
I completely get that, and there is a part of me that might also, when I heard you say 5, I had my eyebrows raised because I didn't think that I was actually willing to give him a little bit more credit, given that he was, shoved into an unfamiliar position and certainly did look decent. But what you said there about Saliba making effectively the entire back four look so good that when he got injured, it was a case of, SOS everywhere. I think that really hit home in a way. And it's another reminder that Ben White is another person who really needs to, shape up in a big way, because many were the people, MK, who made it crystal clear that they didn't enjoy his attitude in many ways. Certainly, what several purists were not impressed with the way he seemed to almost dismiss our legendary Invincibles captain offhand. But that aside, he's another player who also could potentially improve himself and become a really good player. What worries me, though, is that with the whole England issue at the World Cup, that could be a sign that maybe there's a lot of work that he needs to do, and to really, impress a lot more people and get people more on his side, if you know what I mean. So I think a 5, as harsh as it sounds, I'm going to have to agree with you that a 5 might be the best, possible rating we can give him. Because also, again, we've got to look at how he performed in the run-in near the end of the season. And he was one of those players who was also quite highly rated, but who in the end flattered to deceive. So, yeah, I think a 5.
Definitely.
I think if I want to be generous with him, I could give him a 6, but I think on this occasion I might have to trust your judgment.
Yeah, I said it earlier. I put it up on the AFC Talk Show TV Instagram. I said I'm going to be harsh because I have to be. I thought the way we were going, I thought we were doing absolutely brilliant, which we were. And then all of a sudden, it just started to unfold like a Jenga as you pull one out and it just all collapsed down, you know. You pull Saliba out and it all just fell down, you know what I mean? But we are going to move on to the man, Saliba.
Domino dancing, watch them all fall down. Pet Shop Boys.
Exactly that, man. Exactly that. But Saliba, this is a boy. This is a man who I wanted in my squad since the season he went out. After he went out on the second one, I think it was Nice he went to, Nice. So it was Saint Etienne as he went back there, and then he went to Nice, and then it was the Olympique Marseille one. Didn't agree with the Olympique Marseille one. Agreed with the first one, obviously. Agreed with the second one. Wanted him back in last season. You know, he should have been there. So in my opinion, I'm going to just go by the rating of before he got injured. And after, this is probably going to be my highest. I'm going to give him an 8.5, man. Because the other percentage I can't give him. Otherwise, if it was just the season ended when he got injured, then it would have been a 10 or at least a 9. Because there were a few times where he did look shaky, but right at the start he looked amazing. He had that little bit of a mistake against Leicester where he got the own goal, but it wasn't actually his fault in my opinion. But no. I think 8.5. I can't give no higher than 8.5. You know?
Yeah, I would agree. And 8.5 does seem to be the correct rating, because it's also fair to note, MK, that after the World Cup, he did look shaky then as well. I think maybe the fact that he never got to play enough minutes with Konate, Upamecano, and Varane ahead of him in the pecking order might have messed with him a little bit. But his injury really highlighted the lack of depth in the squad more than anything else. And the fact that without him, for a guy who was playing his first full season, he, more than the more senior Magalhaes was the glue that held our defense together. And that's really not the way it should be, because there were times when Magalhaes was, flattering to deceive, and he ended up missing out on being picked for Brazil for that particular World Cup as a result. I think after the World Cup, he, I think a switch flicked inside his head, and he decided, you know what, I've got to stand up and make myself counted. And that's exactly what he did. And that was a time when Saliba was starting to drop a little bit. But then Saliba got back into the groove and was performing well. And then, of course, the injury happened. And it's another reminder, again, MK, that you just cannot in any way depend on the minimal defenders you have in the squad being fit. Goals win games, but defenses win championships, and you need to have some adequate cover. And with that, after at one point in the Europa League as well, I know this is a Premiership review, but consider that whenever we had Saliba and Gabriel starting in the Europa League, we only had Rob Holding as centre-back cover. Now, can you imagine going to a European competition with that level of central defensive cover? It was shocking. It was a shambles.
We'll get slapped in the Champions League if we come in next season just with Holding as backup. But I want Holding gone. I can't lie.
Yeah, we're going to come to Holding in a minute, but
I want proper competition. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And what enamored me about Saliba was the way he looked so in control with the ball at his feet. Obviously, England fans will remember Rio Ferdinand with great affection, but with an Arsenal connection, he reminded me, maybe not so much because I never really got to see him play at his peak, but other older Arsenal fans have seen him play, and they can agree with you that he reminded them so much of David O'Leary in his pomp. And so when he got injured, you could tell that without that level of calmness and security and know-how, it all just fell apart for us, and more's the pity. So this should be a lesson for us. We cannot afford to have a season where we don't have adequate central defensive cover. We need proper defenders in our squad. We can't depend on Saliba staying fit, because when Saliba is fit, he is magnificent. But when he gets injured, everything just, the walls all come tumbling down.
Exactly that.
My rating for him also, you and I are in consensus. I don't think we can give him a 9 because he didn't really get to play quite enough. But because of the quality of his performances, he gets an 8.5 for me, because giving him an 8 would be just too harsh, yeah?
Yeah, 100%. Now we move on to the man who's I've had sleepless nights over. Rob Holding, or should I call Rob Boulding? But he ain't bold no more because he's had that turkey hair transplant, I believe. But yeah.
I mean, here's the thing about Holding. I mean, when he makes headlines on the all for nothing documentary about a hair transplant, you know that there's something not quite right about it. You know what I mean? Go ahead.
Yep. Indeed. This may be one of my lowest ratings, actually, because I'm just going by off what I saw. Oh, God, I don't want to do this. Actually, no, screw it. Holding, you're getting a 3. Actually, no, screw it, 2. You've been terrible. You've had like one good game or 2 good games, and you like, come on, man. Honestly, the mistakes that I see from him, just defending where we just look like shit. Gabriel has to cover not only for Zinchenko, but for Holding as well. So it's like, I just feel so sorry for anyone who's partnered next to Holding. I feel sorry for Ramsdale being behind him, because everyone, you saw Haaland, they were targeting, City targeted Holding, and they done it. And they got their mission complete because we ended up fucking getting slapped. And that's the thing. It is, I think it is quite harsh in other people's eyes. I might be harsh, but to be honest, I can't give him no higher because he hasn't done nothing. He's done a few bits in his career. Yeah, he scored the goal at Manchester City. Well done. Did it get us any points? No. So I can't give him any credit for not getting any points. Like, well done. He scored a goal at the Etihad. But by then, it's too late. It's done. The game is complete. Like, it's finished. So I don't understand it with him. I really don't, because there's obviously something that Mikel sees in him, or he would have got him out the door by now with the rest of Deadwood, you know? But
Yeah.
I can't see anything. I honestly can't see nothing.
Yeah, I completely understand and concur with that. The thing is, though, a large number of people have made it clear that Holding has been used as a scapegoat more often than not because, um, people have memories, obviously, of him getting sent off at Tottenham last season. But let's also not forget that game in and of itself did not cost us the top four because we still should have seen it through against Newcastle. Just made sure that we avoided avoided the defeat and had a better result than Tottenham that day, and we still would have finished in the top four. Instead, Benny Blanco, of course, had an absolutely awful game. I believe he conceded the own goal as well. So, Holding also has played his part in some of our finest moments.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, not finest, but some of our best moments in the Emirates era. Of course, I'm talking about some of our FA Cup wins. He has stepped up, but ever since having a surgery on his knee, he's not really been the same.
No.
So, in as much as it may be harsh, I completely agree with you that the boy simply has no future. And I remember the classic quote from Arsene Wenger: "I'm sorry, he only cost 2 million quid, not 50 million quid." Well, he effectively cost us more money than that, sir, because this season he's been one of the biggest culprits. Maybe not completely his fault, because there are times when against West Ham, for instance, the entire defence has to take the blame, Gabriel included, and Partey, I think, was the one who gave away that penalty. There were moments when the entire defence would have to be blamed, but Holding was conspicuous by a few of his mistakes. So I think I would possibly, give him. I would give him a 3, and that's only because obviously he scored that goal, which was a highlight that wasn't so high, and he played his role. At least he stepped into the breach, but it simply wasn't played well enough. And this should be his last season at the club. And I think I can speak for you and a lot of sane Arsenal fans when I say that if he is at the club next season, then I'm really going to be fit to be tied.
I'm going to be fuming with Mikel, Edu, all of them lot if he's still at the club. Not saying that he ain't gave us some good memories, the FA Cups and that, but there comes a time where you've got to let go. We've ended the Wenger era, and we've still got Holding 4 or 5 years on or 6 years on.
Yeah. We also had Xhaka. Don't forget. Although
I know Xhaka will get onto. My love-hate relationship with Xhaka goes back. But we'll move on from Holding. We'll go for.
Yeah, we can't keep holding on.
Yeah, holding off. Holding off now. But big up Holding. This ain't personal attack to any of the players. Let's just get that in right now. This is not personal attack to any of the players. I love you all. You're all a part of Arsenal until you go. But this is just harsh critics. We have to be. It's a season review. And if we were all singing at the end of the season, champions, then it probably would have been a lot different. But mistakes happen. Experienced manager possibly could have got it over the line, but we'll come down to that. But Gabriel, this is a man before the World Cup. I thought he was looking quite shaky. I thought he had a couple of decent moments as well before the World Cup. He did get picked. No, he didn't get picked by the Brazilian squad, did he?
No, he didn't. He didn't.
No, I thought he played really well. Quite up. I think it was from October. I think he started kicking on. Really, my opinion of him hasn't changed. I still think he's a fantastic player. What we need, but we do need to get some backup on that left-hand side, left centre back as well. With Gabriel, there's certain things like penalties that he gives away, yellow cards that he gets, and all that I just look at and I think, fuck, what is going on? I know there's a baller in there, like I know that he's in there, but he just loses his head at times, And throughout this season, he's been good, but he hasn't been consistently good all the season long. And that's where I'm going to give him a 5 as well, to be honest, because it's just been an average season for him. I don't think he's been over like on top all the time. He's had his moments. He's had the run in the games that him and Saliba were sharing who's doing well and who's not. And then when they were both balling, we were unstoppable. But then again, Saliba got injured. He hasn't looked the same. And this is what it's going to be with the defenders anyway. It's going to be a lot come back to the Saliba because he's his partner, and they were a brilliant partnership, they were brilliant. And if only we had that other centre back in there who could just slot into the right and fit the system, then I think he would have been okay. But I've got to say, I've got to give him a 5 because it wasn't a bad season for him. It was a good season, but at the end of the day, our achievements were get top 4 and win a trophy. We got top 4, but didn't win a trophy, and that's where the harsh but fairness comes in. So I'm going to have to give him a 5. He's made some memories along with the rest of the boys this season that will live on for a little bit longer. But at the end of the day, we need him to step up. We needed him to step up more when Saliba got injured, and it just wasn't meant to be, So 5 for him. But yeah, Gabriel's a good player. Absolutely love him to bits. He's a quality baller, and he plays out from the defence, The same as Saliba. They're both ball-playing defenders. They both love to they love to run with the ball. They love to play that play. And to be honest, I think he can only get better and better, And I do feel quite harsh and just give him a 5. But like I said, our accomplishments, top 4 was sealed. Trophy wasn't, And there's games in that, like the FA Cups and Europa Leagues, that he played all of them pretty much because we didn't have no one on the left-hand side, like left centre-back. So he played quite a few of those games. And it just wasn't meant to be, But I think 5 for him, man.
Yeah, I agree, son. And what really is ominous about this 5 rating as well is that in as much as he's only 25 years old, given that he's had the experience of playing for the Arsenal before the likes of White and Zinchenko and, of course, Saliba, he's expected in many ways to be the leader of that defence. And he did have a few decent performances in the first half of the season, but most of the time his focus wasn't quite spot on. And that is why, in the end, Tite was right to, leave him off. And when you consider that they had Thiago Silva and Dani Alves in that squad, both on the wrong side of their 30s, while Gabriel wasn't in the squad, that should have been a wake-up call to him. And I think, to be fair to him, it was. But then a guy of his ability and experience should not be having to, have his performances depend on the availability of a junior partner who was sent out on loan for a couple of seasons. And he's also going to be one of those players who will be under the microscope next season because he's now pretty much the central defensive linchpin. And he is going to have to stand up and be counted too. So I think the 5 rating is... as harsh as it is, it has to be justified.
Yeah, 100%.
It's a reminder to him that he's got to, really step it up next season and really take defending by the scruff of the neck. Especially since we might be resigned to losing Kieran Tierney, and we may come to Tierney in a little bit. Gabriel's now going to be the senior most defender, so he is really going to have to step up and really improve himself the way Tony Adams eventually did, not too long after he got the captaincy of the club.
Definitely. Now, a man who didn't play a lot of the Premier League games, but did stand in, not in his normal actual position, but right centre-back, who's meant to be on the left, but Kiwior. I don't really know what to say about him. When I've seen him, he looked good in some situations. Others, he did look quite shaky, but I can't really criticise him too much because he didn't play on his right preferred side. I saw him in left back at times, centre back at times, as well as like right centre back, obviously left back at times. But with him, I can't give him no higher than a 4 because it sounds harsh, but he didn't play that much. You know, he didn't play that much, and when he did play, he weren't like shining because he wasn't playing in his right position. And I think that maybe instead of just getting him, Mikel and Edu should have looked for another right-footed centre back as well. But in the end, it wasn't. I presume they just thought because Holding's there, that would have covered that. But it's really what we needed, another right-footed centre-back. That's what we needed. And I can't be too harsh on Kiwior, but I can't give him higher than a 4 because I didn't see too much, you know?
I think it's fair to say that with regard to Jakub Kiwior, he actually did well in the game against Chelsea, where a lot of people were obviously, crowing about how rubbish Aubameyang has become right now. But in reality, Arteta had a game plan to counter Aubameyang by making sure that with Kiwior being able to dominate the aerial duels as well, that Aubameyang just wouldn't get any sort of supply. So there was a method to buying someone like him. And I believe, of course, that when we signed him based on his World Cup with Poland, where along with the likes of Matty Cash of Aston Villa, he was a part of that Polish defence, which did well to qualify from Argentina's group alongside Argentina, only to come up against an absolute buzzsaw that was the French national team and Kylian Mbappe. I mean, in the form that they were in that day, I couldn't see any defence being able to withstand them for too long. I know we only conceded twice, but there were times when we could have had a few more. And had it not been for some desperate defending and maybe one or two saves from Pickford, it could have been even worse. So I'm willing to say that with Kiwior, when he knew his role, he was outstanding.
Yeah.
But the enduring image for me will be against Brighton when his shoe came off. And instead of trying to, do whatever he could to just get the ball away, he just bent down to tie his shoelaces. But here's where we also have to criticize Gabriel Magalhaes, because when you see a defender down, you got to rush to that ball and clear it, for heaven's sake.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
got to prevent. You got to prevent the the opponent who Kiwior was marking from getting a shot on goal, and just try and try and clear that. And it was an abdication of responsibility from every single one of those defenders at that time that really angered me. The same as it was against the likes of West Ham and Southampton, and that's why I often say that you get credit as a defensive unit. You share the blame as a defensive unit. But with Kiwior, he obviously has a lot to learn, and he's had a share of iffy games. He's had a share of good games. I probably wouldn't give him a 4, though. I think I'd like to say that if we give him a 5, it's a sign that I think he has potential to become a more than decent defender. But he really, really has a lot to improve on. And if he does improve on that and goes on to prove why he merits being picked for Poland. And of course, the ex-Portugal coach Fernando Santos is now in charge of that team. That he is a decent defender, and we were right to get him. But obviously, with Holding having proved himself to be, just not quite able to step it up when it matters, I think his time is over. And if we can get a good right-footed centre half who can be a good cover for Saliba, because Kiwior is normally covered for Gabriel. And if we can get another defender, then that should really ensure that we have our backs well covered. But I'll tell you one thing. If I ever see Jakub Kiwior playing left back, I am really going to throw a fit.
Yeah, that's why I gave him a 4, to be honest, because of that performance in left back. I was thinking, oh my God. And when he went to tie his shoelace and we conceded, that really annoyed me. But he's a man who both of us love, I think. Absolutely love Pauls. Kieran Tierney, the boy KT. I'm going to be gutted when an announcement comes that he's leaving. And quite honestly, I'm never going to say this again, but I actually agree with what Lee Gunner says. I kind of hope that he goes to a Newcastle or a City just so then Mikel gets it proper back in his face, You're letting go an absolute world-class player. You're letting go of him for cheap as well. By the looks of it, it's going to be cheap as pie. Kieran Tierney, I love him to bits. When he has come on, he's been fantastic for me. I think he needs more time, and I'm just gutted that it hasn't worked out. Bear in mind, I have no connection with Celtic. I'm a Rangers person. I have no connection with Celtic whatsoever. So this is unbiased as it can be. And I just think he's an absolute baller. Since he come, I just think that he's just supplies that width that we need in that left back role. I know Zinchenko's decent with the inverted role, but there's some games where we shouldn't have inverted. You know, there's some games where Kieran Tierney should have been on there, and I can't give him criticism for that. All I can say is, Kieran, I hope Mikel sees a baller in you, bro, because us Arsenal fans are all seeing it. And I just think that he's getting such unfairly treated at Arsenal that if he does leave, I will have to just go, you know what, fair play. I'm going to give him a 5 because he hasn't been given the opportunities. And when he has, he's done really well. But I can't give him no higher because he hasn't played that much. But
I agree completely.
When he has played, he's been fantastic, man. I'm going to be gutted when that guy leaves, you know?
I agree, son. I agree. And, you know, the sad thing about it all is that there are several games, and I think I said this earlier, where Tierney should have played. And it isn't even footballing reasons, but out of spite, in my opinion, that he wasn't picked. Now, if we take a look at the home game against Liverpool, where Tomiyasu started ahead of him when Zinchenko was injured, I think that was because Arteta had an idea that he could use Tommy's body shape or body contour, as it were, to nullify the threat of Mohamed Salah. And to an extent, it worked. But in as much as people might be willing to offer him some credit, we also have to consider that that was at a stage in the season where Salah wasn't in the best of form and wasn't quite finding his feet. And of course, we still only won 3-2 because they really pulled us back. And it was, of course, a Bukayo Saka penalty that won it. So I think I will never allow myself to forget how Arteta introduced welcomed Zinchenko to Arsenal. Having sort of grabbing him in a warm embrace and saying, "That black shirt looks so good on you, man." I mean, you weren't even his teammate. You don't do that. You were his assistant coach. There is a way that a manager has to behave towards players. A warm handshake would have sufficed. And even if they were teammates, if it was, say, for example, I'm not saying it would happen, but let's say, for example, that Arteta was welcoming Theo Walcott back to the club. And bear in mind, Walcott and Arteta were teammates. I wouldn't have been surprised if Arteta would have given Walcott a hug, but a handshake, a warm handshake, and a warm welcome, a warm oral welcome would have sufficed. I mean, thanks for coming to the club. I value you highly, and I hope you can play a role for us. You don't just embrace him and say that shirt looks good on you. I mean, do that.
Exactly. To be quite honest, it was the same when Jack Wilshere got lent. Mikel was very quick to shut that down and not let him come back and play for us and do that. And he was training with us, but you never saw him get a hug off Mikel, and they were actual teammates. You know, quick handshake and that, quick hello. And I'm presuming they speak all the time because of the youth academy and that. But yeah, there's special. There's in Mikel's eyes, there is his star boys. I know we've got star boy Saka, but there is his star boys, and then there's the rest. You know, and Kieran Tierney sadly falls under the rest, and it's absolutely gutting, man. It's honestly
but here's the thing. Let's also not forget that in the earlier seasons he was a regular player under both Emery and Arteta for the most part. But then Arteta obviously thought that maybe bringing Zinchenko in could add a new dimension, and that's sort of the way it's proved. But it's the refusal to change things when things have gone wrong that has angered me a great deal. Because, when things aren't going wrong and when circumstances change, a good manager makes the changes. Just like Guardiola did. He got rid of Cancelo, stuck Nathan Ake at left back, moved Manuel Akanji to right back, and said that Kyle Walker might not have a future. But then Ake got injured. Akanji had to go to the left. Walker came back into the right. And maybe it was a case of Guardiola pushing Walker's buttons. I don't know. But that just goes to show that the student still has a lot to learn from the master. And again, with Wilshere, let's not forget that fellow was actually called up to the Dubai tour in January, I think it was, or December, what
Mm.
have you. So let's not assume that Arteta and Wilshere aren't on the best of terms. If they weren't on the best of terms, Wilshere wouldn't have made that Dubai trip.
Oh yeah,
It's
they
as simple as
definitely
that.
will be on good terms, but he's not as comfortable with Jack as probably with Zinni. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that completely, but
Mm.
let's not forget that he spent his more recent years working with Zinchenko.
Mm.
And speaking of the devil, I mean, do we come to him next, or are there any more defenders you
Of
want to talk
course,
about?
no, not that I can think of. So we'll go straight to him. To be honest, right, this is the thing with him. I'm going to give him quite a high rating because he's done really well this year, and I do think there's times Anfield is one where he should have been brought off, but actually not his fault. But we have looked different with him and Jesus, who we will come to. But we've looked very, very good, and we've looked much better with the inverted at times. So for me, I'm going to give him probably a 7 because I think he's done really well. The reason why I'm not going higher is because the Anfield one, when he got nutmegged, cried like a baby. The FA Cup, I know we're only doing Premier League, but the FA Cup one, when we got lost against City, cried like a baby. There was a few more where he just wasn't good enough. There's a few more bits where he should have thought common sense and not gone inverted so much. But when you're given instructions by the manager, he might feel that he's got to follow them. So we don't know whether it's his choice to be that much inverted all the time, or if Mikel is saying you need to be. You know, I think at times there was fantastic times with him, and I think there will be a lot more good times with him as well. And I'm glad that we got him, but I do think he should have been rotated more, and maybe that's why he lost form, because he was played quite a lot at all times. You know, and so when he was injured, he wasn't played, but when he was about, he was in that team. But I always thought that Zinchenko would have come in and maybe we would have used him in the central midfield role, you know, like put Tierney on left back and maybe use Zinchenko in that sort of role because he is inverting really good and he does do that, but he can also play midfield. So I do think there's going to be times next season, hopefully Mikel does look to put him in the midfield because I do think he can do a job there as well. But the one thing I will say about him is his defending is quite poor. His attacking play is fantastic. Yeah, brilliant. One of the best, in my opinion. But, and this is a big but, Kieran Tierney is quality in defence. Yeah, if Zinchenko masters his defending more, then I believe that he will be a big player for us in the future, like in the seasons to come. But he needs to get his defending now spot on because his invert role, his attacking, fantastic. Now get your defending back into shape, you know, because with Pep, he never used to have to defend because they're such an ongoing team. But with us, they've got to defend. He's got to defend, so he needs to learn that, you know. But yeah,
Absolutely.
7 from me.
Yeah, and here's the thing about Zinchenko as well. He actually does, in fact, play a defensive midfield role for the Ukraine, where he can sort of come right in and sort of, you know, be in front of that back four. So if he can do that for the Ukraine, there's certainly no reason why he can't do that for the Arsenal. The only problem is, it was a perfect example for me of a square peg in a round hole. The square peg turned out to be a better fit than otherwise, but still, the worst part about having that inverted system where we effectively had an extra midfielder who could supply some more passes was that it wasn't just that the left side of the defense was left open, but that Magalhaes ended up being overworked because he had to cover that particular space which was left effectively. And with 3 at the back, it was always going to be a very big risk. So Zinchenko would effectively be something like, I don't know if he would be a wing back of sorts, but the problem is, if you play as a left back, you've got to have some defensive ability. And that is not something that you can necessarily coach someone in unless that person may perhaps be getting on and losing a little bit of pace. because I do seem to remember Dion Dublin, who started his career as a striker, ending up as a defender in the latter half of his career. But with Zinchenko, he is more than capable of performing the defensive midfield role. But when you stick him as a left back, if he goes walkabout and doesn't come back in time, we run those risks. And the worst part is, MK, that thing was found out and exploited over and over again during the run into the season. And that was when many of us started to believe, you know what, we can't keep having this inverted system if it means putting us at such a big risk. And I know that while a lot of people are happy to, really fawn over that tactic as something quite innovative and brilliant, I mean, when it looks good, it looks really, really good. But when it looks bad, it looks horrid. Just like the little girl who had a little curl right in the middle of her forehead. So, with Zinchenko, he is experienced enough and young enough to be able to know how to defend a bit better. And the fact that his defending was poor is an indictment on how seriously he took it. So if he has designs on continuing in that left back sort of inverted role next season, he has to really start to shape up and make sure that he improves his defensive play, because he is going to be played in that position. And he captains the Ukraine as well, mind you.
Yeah.
So he should also have the footballing nous and intelligence to know that if you're a defender, you still need to defend. And there will be times more often than not that you will be called back to defend. If you give him a 7, I guess I could possibly give him a 7, because anything less might be a little bit harsh on him. Certainly in the beginning and the middle of the season, he gave us some really good moments. I think the equalising goal against Aston Villa at Villa Park was definitely quite key, because it brought us back into the game. It made Unai Emery start to become a little bit more defensive. And then, we got those 2 breathlessly late goals and ended up winning 4-2 in a real smash and grab. Of course, that win, like the one against Bournemouth, ended up papering over some cracks, but we will come to that. But I think there is some merit to Zinchenko as a player. I just don't like him as a defender. I want him to be more of a midfielder, and especially if there are going to be doubts about the long-term futures of Thomas Partey and Jorginho, and whether or not we will be able to get at least one of Declan Rice or Moises Caicedo. Zinchenko could very well end up being a more important player in our squad, but in a different position than what he's been playing this season. And I take it that whenever I think of people like Zinchenko and Ben White who find success of some sorts in different positions, I consider that to be more serendipitous than anything else. And of course, the fact that we gave Benny Blanco a somewhat lower rating means that he still has to, really step it up, because he did have some awful games as well, especially in the run-in. And I get the feeling that it's the run-in that's going to be, influencing a lot of our ratings. But with Zinchenko as well, some of his defending during the run-in was absolutely abysmal. And if Arteta knew that the title was on the line, he should have, in fact, had the common sense to, at least play Zinchenko in the midfield, or better still, just drop the fella and bring Tierney on. And then, of course, when Tierney did play against Brighton, had an okay game where he was, in my opinion, the best of a bad bunch, but probably didn't quite distinguish himself. Arteta took that as an excuse and didn't even, give him a single minute of game time against Forest until it might have been too late. And the same thing happened against Wolves. With Zinchenko, I'm really inclined to give him a 7, not because he did well, but because I know he could do better. And he should look at that as a bit of a disappointment. I don't want to give him a 6, though, because that would be, all things considered, quite harsh.
I think Zinchenko's frame of mind, he will look at that and think, God, that's a 7. Well, I'm used to performing 9s and 10s and that. So hopefully he takes his criticism. Hopefully he sees this. But yeah, I think that's it for defenders. I don't think there's any more. I think that's just the Premier League one.
Takahiro Tomiyasu.
Oh, Sugar Lamps, yeah. Tomiyasu. Oh, God, I forgot about him.
We can make it quick. 5 or 4.
Yeah, 5 as well. Yeah, not good enough. I think he had some sloppy-ass games in right back. And, yeah, I just don't get it with him. I think he's a fantastic player, but yeah, I can't really say too much on him, to be honest. But yeah, midfielders, and by midfielders, I don't mean like Saka and Martinelli. I just mean Martin Odegaard, Thomas Partey, and Granit Xhaka and Jorginho. I think that's the four that we use the most. I think so, as far as I'm aware.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's the
Well,
only
we certainly didn't use Mohamed El Neni.
No. Oh, God, yeah. My Egyptian brother. Oh, God. But yeah, we'll start with obviously the captain, Captain Odegaard. I like him. I like him a lot. I do see Mesut Ozil in him at sometimes, and this is where the critic will come in of me. The Mesut Ozil who goes away games, top 6 games, and goes missing. I think at the Etihad he went missing. I think OT, I believe he went missing as well. Can't remember that far back though. I even think he didn't do too great against City at home. I don't believe. I think he's a fantastic player, and where it comes in with him is he's young and he's quality. But my opinion is he really the right man to captain this team? I don't know. He doesn't seem like the leader on the pitch that the captain should be. But their mind, I don't see everything in the dressing room, etc., etc. He might be more vocal there, but then again, he is got a lot more work rate than Mesut Ozil as well. But the only reason how I'm going to compare him to Ozil is that he did go missing the big games at times. Other times he run the show. At the Emirates, he absolutely destroyed teams, and then a couple of games, Forest, for example, didn't see much of him. West Ham, didn't really see too much of him after we went 2-0 up. There was just times where I didn't feel like I saw enough of him. I thought he should have been all over. But with him, I highly rate him, and I think he's been one of our better players this year. But he didn't show up in quite a lot of the games that we need him the most during that title run, and that's where it's going to have to go down. So I was going to give him an 8, but I'm going to give him a 7.5, just purely because he didn't show up in a couple of the big ones,
Yeah, I agree, and I think he might be Arsenal's top scorer this season. He has scored a few blinders. He's one of those players who has the uncanny ability of being able to sort of slip under the radar and then come up with a good touch here and there. And before you know it, he's got a couple of goals to his name, and the team are 1-0 up. But I completely agree with you, though. When it came to when the going got tough, he got up and got out. He wasn't really anywhere to be seen in the really big games. And as a captain, you don't want that from your captain. No, sir.
You look at our ex-captains like Vieira, for example, Tony Adams, and all them, and you think, proper leaders. But with him, I just hope that he can bounce back from this season, to be honest, because it was a disappointing end.
It was indeed, and he also can't not know that they were so close and in the end so far. And it's like all those wonderful stats you earn, I'm sure he would trade them all for that trophy. That's the way, as a leader, you're supposed to be. Yeah, so I'd probably give him a 7.5 as well. 7 would perhaps be at least marginally a bit too harsh. Definitely. So yeah, I concur with that rating, but he also is going to have to really start stepping it up when it counts. I mean, yeah.
I heard PSG are swimming around. Hopefully Martin doesn't go nowhere. I know he signed a new deal at one point this year. I think he did. But as far as I'm aware, he ain't going nowhere for a long time. I'm glad about it, but I do think we need some more leaders, and that's where this next man come in, who used to be our captain before he told the fans to F off and threw the captain's armband down. Granit Xhaka, who I'm going to ask you for 2 ratings on this one. His season rating and his overall Arsenal rating.
Overall Arsenal rating, I'd probably give him a 5.5. Season rating, I think I'd give him a 7.5.
Yeah,
What
I
he
agree.
did, what he did to Trent Alexander-Arnold at Anfield, that cost him an extra half a point for me. You
Yeah,
don't
same
do
here.
that. You don't make a nuisance of yourself and wind people up, knowing that it will do nothing but
And knowing that
motivate them even
it's
further.
Skelser who you're winding up, wind up Van Dijk or something. Because Liverpool fans, when it's one of their own, and like, bear in mind, when it's one of their own you pick on, you're screwed. Because that's when their fans will go nuts. And they will. And they did. And if Xhaka wouldn't have done that, possibly they wouldn't have scored the goal. You know, all of a sudden,
Agreed.
Xhaka kicks off, they go down the other end, get a goal, and we go in half-time 2-1, when realistically, if we would have went in half-time 2-0, it would have been a lot more difficult for Liverpool, you know. But Xhaka, with him, I have to agree with the rating overall 5.5, and I have to agree with the 7.5. I think the only reason how he could have got a 9, in my opinion, or a 10 is if we won the league. I think he's been outstanding this season. But yet again, sometimes you see there's Xhaka from a couple of years back and you just want to scream because you're just seeing an absolute baller come out this season. And then all of a sudden he does that at Anfield and you think, just why? Just why? But I heard fans singing, "We want you to stay, we want you to stay. Granit Xhaka, we want you to stay." I was not one of those fans. My opinion, I think it's an end of a sticky era for him that ended nicely. I just think there it is an end and an era for him, and I do think we should let him go. But I think 15 million is an absolute flipping bargain that we're letting him go for.
Yep.
But yeah, I just think his overall Arsenal career 5.5 wasn't too great. Won a couple of won an FA Cup with us when we were in Champions League. The reason why I wouldn't go any higher on his overall is because we got absolutely battered 10-2 on aggregate to Bayern Munich, and he was there that season. So with him, it's a difficult one. It is good reasons. I respect him. But then there's this little thought in the back of my head that's going, he told us all to F off and threw the armband down, and that's when we thought it was it. And he even admitted that he was close to leaving. So it is farewells. I don't get the 60,000 fans in the stadium shouting Granit Xhaka, "We want you to stay, we want you to stay." But that's their opinion. I don't know whether they're just doing it to be nice to him, to give him a nice farewell, or that's that. But I did see on his story that he reposted something about his farewell game. So I do think that is true that he's leaving. But yeah, good luck to Xhaka, wherever you may be, my friend. Hopefully you carry on doing what you do best, playing ball and not getting red cards. You know, but big up yourself, Xhaka. It's been an absolute. It's when you say there's likable things about him. There is so many. I like his mentality. I love his winning mentality. He loves it. You know, I hate to see him get angry, because that's when Ramsdale had the thing thrown at. No, when Ramsdale got kicked at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, you just saw Xhaka just turn and go, and then all of a sudden Mikel's like running after him. That was my best highlight of his part, where I actually enjoyed him getting angry, because he sticks up for our players, and that's where he is a leader. Without being a captain, he is the captain.
Yeah, similar to what Guendouzi did when Leno got injured against Brighton,
Yeah,
I suppose. I know a different context completely, but yeah, listen, he captains the Swiss national team, and obviously he is more or less one of the big brothers of that team, alongside the likes of Shaqiri and Rodriguez and Sommer and others. So he does have the leadership ability, but you know, he also just has a tendency to be a little bit too hot-blooded for his own good, and that has more often than not been his downfall. So, I mean, hopefully at this stage in his career, he won't take life for granted, as it were, and he will start to, you know, realize that with his new team, he is now going to be expected to perform a similar role, but can't be, you know, completely hot-blooded and enter the team. So, yeah, I say good luck to him.
Yeah, good luck to him. I wish him all the best. I wish his family all the best and that. But I'm just ashamed that we didn't win a trophy for him this year. You know, send him off with a trophy. That would have been nice, but that is how it is. Another man who I am going to criticise a lot because I just thought he absolutely played so poor near the end of the season, etc. And that is Thomas Partey. To me, this boy never ever got injured before coming to Arsenal.
No.
And all of a sudden, he's at Arsenal and he's getting injured loads. And I think that he's only played a combined games of like 30 something. So he hasn't even done a full season at the club. He's always injured. He's always getting injured. And to be honest, he looked flat near the end of this season. Quite honestly, I just don't know what was wrong with him. I'm going to have to just give him a standard 5. I think if I go lower, it will be very, very harsh. But if I go higher, then it's not realistic. I just think standard 5 for him because he showed at times that his leadership was on another scale. He's an absolute baller, but then he doesn't show that in all the games, and he gets injured, and that's not his fault. But to go from Atletico Madrid never getting injured to then coming to the Arsenal and getting injured, it's just a little bit disappointing. I don't know what's going on with our medical staff, if the medical staff are doing something wrong, but it just seems that every player who comes to Arsenal, they do have injuries. And it is disappointing for me to give him a 5 because I thought I was going to give him a higher rating, but then watching back the rest of the season, watching it back, giving time. 5 for me, man. I just can't give him any higher.
Yeah, I agree. Flashes of the ability that he had, but when it came to the crunch, he just couldn't kick on either. And I think it's fair to say that the entire controversy surrounding him off the field also might have taken its toll on him, at least mentally. So he just seems a little bit shot, and he really needs to recharge his batteries. And there should be a quick resolution on that controversy with him, so that at least we could all start to move on. So. Yeah, I'm afraid I have to agree. It's his jersey number 5 for me.
Yeah, his jersey number it is. Now, a man who was, when he was getting linked to Arsenal, I said, I do not want him near my club. Get him away. I do not want a Chelsea player ever near my club again after Willian. And Cech, I have to say, I did not want him. But, and this is a very big but, he's proved me wrong in many ways, you know. He is a decent player, Jorginho, and I think that we got him for a very good price. And at the time of the season where we were going in for Cancelo, and obviously Brighton wouldn't let us get him, and we needed to find someone quick. And honestly, Jorginho at the start, I wasn't interested. But I'm looking forward to seeing him next season in the red and white. Or should I say red, gold, and white because of our sleeves. But I can't give him high because he didn't lead us to our goals. Because he obviously knew when he come into the club that we were pushing on for a title. He's won titles. He's won things there at Chelsea as well. So he knows what it is. The mentality is there. And I think he'll kick on next season with us. I think he'll be that rotation player for Partey. I think at times he's looked better than Thomas Partey. And that's where I'm going to actually give him a 5 as well. I can't give him no higher because we didn't have him for that long. And I can't give him any lower because he didn't really do too much wrong. He's a bit slow. But that's all I can say about him. When he intercepts, when you're watching him play and he gets the ball, he likes driving at the defence. And that's what I like about him. He can pick out passes, he can cause problems, and hopefully next season he'll do the same. I just think that he needs to have a pre-season with us, get what Mikel wants from him in his head, and kick on from there. I do think that we'll only keep him until the end of next season. He'll leave us for free, I believe. So, yeah, 5 for me, man. Hello? Oh. I think Manny may have just gone then. But 5 for me for Jorginho. Manny, are you there? I think he has disappeared, but we'll just wait for him to message me on private chat. Let me just quickly put that in. Manny. Hopefully he shall. Aha! I see him now. Right, I see him.
Yeah, I just switched off the camera, really. I didn't go anywhere, so I wasn't going to leave you high and dry. I was listening to everything, really.
Yeah, so Jorginho, I do think a standard 5 for him, man. Honestly, I can't give him no higher.
I'm willing to, sort of give him the benefit of doubt listening to what you say, because he's had more good games than bad games if you take a look
100%.
at everything. I mean, there have been games, mind you, where his stamina has been found wanting, I will admit, and that sort of is what you get when you get a Chelsea cast-off, really. But I think when he knows his role, obviously he has an outstanding footballing brain, and he could certainly play a bit of a role for us, albeit maybe more reduced if we get some more top-of-the-line midfielders in. And I actually would be inclined to give him more of a 6, really, because he has had more good moments than bad moments, but I'd like to see a little bit more of him. And bear in mind, at the end of next season, Jorginho will be out of contract. We don't know about Partey's long-term future. So again, making sure that we have a good quality replacements for these guys, either Rice or Caicedo, or maybe both. I mean, we know both won't happen. We know it won't happen because we don't have the dosh for that, but we really need to start looking at the state of our squad and take things seriously, eh?
Definitely. Right, we're going to move on to the forwards. Obviously, Mohamed El Neni didn't really play. Big up Mohamed. I think he might be out of contract.
Wait, we forgot. Would you class Fabi Vieira as a midfielder or a forward?
I would leave him in midfield. Yeah, we'll put him in midfield.
But anyway, listen. Let's keep it quick. He gets a rating of 1 for me.
Yeah,
and that's only because he scored against Brentford. Bulk yourself up, son. This is the
I
Premier
agree.
League you're in.
1, you're not good enough. You need to go out on loan next season. Maybe he should have went out on loan instead of Marquinhos. We're going to actually not put Marquinhos in this because we didn't really see him too much in the league. But I just want to shout him out as well. Absolute baller. I can't wait for him to kick on at Arsenal. He, for me, is the one man who I'm really looking forward to seeing in pre-season as well. Now down to the business. We're going to start with our star boy, Bukayo Saka. Saka, I feel kind of sorry for him because he looked absolute burnt out to the brim come the end of the season. He's played all the games when really I do think he should have been dropped a couple of times. Start, unbelievable, absolute baller. I think he grew into it more as the season went on, and he did give me give us as Arsenal fans some absolute smashing moments. But I'm not going to give him higher than 8. I'm going to give him an 8, and that's simply he won't get any higher because he looked burnt out, and that's not his fault. I think that's just Southgate and Mikel just using him way too much, and I think Mikel should have actually pulled him, maybe not going to the international break in March. I think it affected him because he was so burnt out, and it affected us as a team because we really started falling from March onwards. You look at Liverpool, West Ham, Southampton, you're looking at them 3 and they're ringing the most, and it just went all tits up from there. But Saka, I love him to bits. I'm so happy, so happy that he signed that contract. City fans, get out my DMs now saying that you're going to nick Saka. United fans, get out my DMs now saying that he's going to go City. Tottenham fans, you guys can't even chat. But yeah, 8 for me, Manny. What about you?
Completely agree. No questions asked. Overused, overplayed. Whenever he's played, he's looked focused and fresh and fit. He's been fantastic, but burnt out near the end. Can't give him higher than an 8. Simple as that.
100%. Now we're going to the man in the middle, our new number 9, Jesus. For me, because he had that, I think, 2 or 3 months where he was injured quite a bit. He didn't play. Maybe 2 months, I think that was, during the World Cup. Didn't come back for a little while after that because Eddie was in. Jesus, I absolutely love him. And he's an absolute baller. I do believe that we do need a target man striker in the summer, someone who can control the ball, chest it down, bring it down, control it, instead of playing that like sort of false 9 sort of role that he does, because he's everywhere on the pitch, you know. And I think I'm going to give him the same. Actually, no, I can't give him the same as Saka. Saka played all the games, so I'm going to give him standard 6 because I didn't see enough of him in many ways. Obviously, the knee injury was very, very difficult. I know it's going to take him. It took him quite a while to get back in, but I do think a 6.5. I can't give him any higher because he didn't play nearly enough, as much as I thought he was going to play this season because of injuries, etc. And I do believe that the injury was known about before we actually signed him. And I do think that the World Cup didn't help because obviously that's when he had to then have the operation. So I do believe that the knee was giving him jip, and he was in some sort of good form before the World Cup. And then obviously the World Cup happened, got injured, and then it sort of went down track from there. But he's a good signing. I think that he's young. He's got the passion. He's got the mentality of winners. And quite honestly, I think he's going to be at the club for a very long time. And I think that he will be a fantastic player when he gets to play the whole season, you know. Pardon me. This season was his first, and it's just a shame that he got injured because I think that he got 12 goals this season, if I'm not wrong, in the Premier League, or 12 overall. I think it's 12 in the Premier League, possibly, or in the season overall. But if he didn't get that injury, I think he would have probably knocked on probably about 15, 20, you know? So there is positives, a lot of positives with Jesus, and I do rate him very highly. And I know that a lot of people may think I'm a bit harsh, but at the end of the day, he didn't play every single game, obviously. He did get injured, and I can't give him higher than a 6.5, to be honest.
Yeah, I actually got you back there with the stats. He scored 11 goals in the Premier League and 1 in the League Cup. No goal. He also scored 6 goals in Europe, which, wait, hold on. No. He scored 11 goals in the Premier League, and just the 11 goals in the Premier League. So no goals in the other competition. So that was 11 for the season. And I do take your point when you probably believe that he would have kicked on had it not been for his knee injury. But then, of course, let's not forget that if my aunt had a tash, she'd be my uncle. And there were some signs as well, even when he was scoring some goals, that he wasn't exactly that kind of dynamic number 9 that we wanted. He was really more of a replacement for Alex Lacazette, who, ironically, since going back to France, has torn it up over there. But we still don't really have that golden boot striker who'd score 20 a season, like Aubameyang did for us twice, or Haaland has just done for Manchester City. I mean, forget about 20. The bloke's got, I think, 40 odd or 50.
40 sang. I couldn't believe that, man. I could not believe that.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's still a lot that has to really sort of come for him, and I suppose he is performing a little bit of a.
Actually signed him. They've actually they're proper signed an alien, man.
Yeah. So I think I get that he's probably performing the sort of role that Arteta wants him to perform, but I would like to see a lot more output from him. So I'd agree with you that a 6.5 might really be the best, but I would like to see him start scoring more because he does have a reputation of not exactly being a prolific goal scorer from his days at Manchester City. I mean, only 58 league goals over the course of 6 seasons, less than 10 a season on average. That's not exactly really big returns, if you know what I mean. He was outstanding in Europe. I'll give you that. But with us, he didn't score in the Europa League. So I'd like to see him be a lot more involved, especially if we're going to play in the Champions League.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
should be the stage for him to really start kicking it on and start, proving his worth. But again, a 6.5 for me, and he's also going to be another player who will be under the radar next season.
Yeah, 100%. Next man, the man who I was fuming when he signed. Well, I weren't fuming when he signed the contract. I was fuming when he got the number 14 shirt. My legend, my baller, Thierry Henry wore that. I was gutted when Eddie got that shirt, but I've still not got over it. I can't lie. I think Martinelli should have got that shirt. I think he earns it. But with Eddie, he gave me some amazing times. A lot of United fans got shushed because of him. When I look back, the old Eddie, the defense is in trouble. Eddie's in the room, and all that. So I think when he come in, he was absolutely fantastic. I couldn't believe it what I was seeing when he was consistently scoring. I'm gonna have to give him a 5.5. I can't lie. I think he done well in those games that we needed him the most. And to be honest, he did have some games where he didn't do much, but then the other creative players were getting involved, scoring the goals. So in many ways, I think Eddie, you've done really well. You come in when we needed you the most to push us on, and if it weren't for you, maybe wouldn't have been in second place, to be quite honest, competing for the title right until City obviously took it out of our hands. But you've got to give him credit where credit's due with Eddie, bro, because he's young, he's getting the experience one job, but I do think we need we need an actual target forward, because at the moment it's like Jesus is like Lacazette and Eddie is going to probably become like Lacazette as well. I personally think, and this is a quick question with you, Manny, before I get your rating as well. Would you take Ivan Toney?
Under current circumstances, no.
See,
Because
this is my opinion.
Yeah.
Right. So he's back in January from his ban. He's still allowed to train, but he's not allowed to play any matches, which is fair enough. I'm not condoning what he did. Obviously, he's been charged, etc., etc. Fair play. But this is the way I'm looking at it. Brentford will need to buy a new striker. So in many ways, if we go in there with a 25, 30 million bid, Bosh, there you go, get him. If we get him in, I know he can't play until Jan, but he can learn what he needs in training. He can get that Mikel sort of role with him, put all his effort in. And then when January comes and we've got the FA Cup, Champions League fixtures in Feb as well, lots of Premier League games. We might even still be in the Carabao Cup. We just don't know. But he could come in and do that sort of job because he will be hungry to prove a point when he gets back. And I do believe that we could go in there and get it. I don't think we will. But I believe if the offer's there, take it. Because if we can go in to January with Ivan Toney coming in, and he'll be hungry for goals. Let me tell you, I'm going to say this now. I guarantee he will be on fire from January because he's missed it and he will be practicing his heart off. He'll be preparing. And that's the thing. I do think if the risk is took and we go for him and get him, it could well pay the reward, But I don't think Mikel's going to do that, but I would take him. But yeah, what's your rating with Eddie?
I can only really give Eddie a 5 because 4 Premier League goals and 30 appearances tells the whole story, really. There were some games. The fact that he was dropped for Leandro Trossard, who played as a false 9 in certain games near the end of the season, tells its own story. He did have 1 or 2 games where he, did provide some really good moments. But again, they're just few and far between. And you take a look at his age, he's 24. He's at an age as well where he really needs to kick on and start doing a lot more than what he's been doing. This season, of course, as I said, he's had 30 appearances. Most of them, granted, have been substitute appearances. I will be fair-minded enough to accept that. But still, you really would want a guy like him to offer so much more than just running here and there like a headless chicken and not being able to find the connections he needs to score the goals that we need. So I can only give him a 5, I'm afraid, because I know that a 4 would be harsh because he has scored a few in the cup competitions. He scored in the FA Cup, a couple of goals in the Europa League. But again, it's very easy for a guy like him to score in games like that. You also want him to start really trying to do whatever he can to affect a game, and he hasn't shown me that he can do that. So he's going to be under the radar next season in a very big way, and I'll be very interested to see what sort of a role he plays and how he performs. And if he once again, flatters to deceive, then questions are going to be rightly asked. 5.
Yeah, I give him 1 more year, and if he hasn't proven to me, then I want him gone. I can't lie. I've got no time for this. We're in the Champions League, man. We need a proper squad if we want to stay here. And if he can't prove, then he's got to go. Now let's go on to the Martinelli, man. Oh my God, this guy, absolute flipping baller. And I can't lie, he's been unfairly dropped at times this season. In my opinion, I think you could have easily dropped Saka, put Martinelli on the right or Trossard on the right, and then kept Martinelli in. I gave Saka an 8. I'm going to give Martinelli higher, actually. I'm going to give him an 8.5. I can't give no one above an 8.5. And the reason why I'm giving him an 8.5 is because of his absolute... He's just the way he gets his... The way he looks up and he just runs with the ball, looks down and just sprints with the ball, the way he takes on a man. It's looking like, the way he does them runs, the way he does the bits, you can see that he's learned off players, like even though Aubameyang, of course, fell off, but you could see that Martinelli, when Aubameyang was there, he was getting little tips off Aubameyang, how to do this and what to do, and he's learning off very good players, let's be real there. And I think that he's only going to get better and better and better. And quite honestly, he's another one. When he signed the contract, I was very, very happy. I was delighted with him. And quite honestly, I was very proud of him going to the World Cup as well. It's like, he's not going to get the same sort of treatment as our academy players, like the Sakas, the Smith Rolls, the Nelsons, who's come up through our academy. But by certain, we brought him in when he was young. We formed him. We've made him into a really good player. And he's only going to get better, man. And I think that's where 8.5 comes in. I think Martinelli has been outstanding this season. And it's just disappointing that he can't see the end of a trophy, But... yeah, what's your opinion on that one?
Yeah, I mean, with regards to Martinelli, he'd be my player of the season, just slightly above Saliba, because whenever he's, whenever he's been asked to perform, whenever he's had his chances, he's taken them more often than not. And I completely agree with you that there were occasions when his being dropped from the team seemed very harsh indeed. So I guess the only problem is that, there have been times when he did show a little bit of inconsistency and show that he wasn't quite able to adapt to the pace of the game. But then, again, the inverted system took its toll on him too, because he really is at his best when he has that overlapping left back playing behind him. And that is where, really, Arteta missed a trick with Martinelli. To me... I'm thinking of whether or not to give him an 8.5 or an 8. But I think I want to take a look at his returns as well this season and see how well he has been able to do. And this particular season, 15 goals in the Premier League, and in 36 games, he didn't play in 2. And if we compare him to someone like a Bukayo Saka, 14 and 38, Martinelli deserves the 8.5.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I was thinking. I weren't too sure of how many goals. I'm glad you checked that. But 15 goals this season with the player that he's been, man, he can only I'm really worried in case bloody Real Madrid or Barcelona get a hold of him, man. I'm really, really worried about that. But let's
You
move
and me
on.
both, son. You and me both. If he goes to a big club with a big manager, he's going to start cooking there.
He's
Believe
going to
you
proper
me.
cook, man. That's the thing. Big up Martinelli, of course. Absolutely amazing player as well. Big up. That is the players done, I believe. No, Trossard. Forgot about him.
Trossard. You can take this one first. I'll chime in.
Right, I'm going to give him standard 6. I think at times he's been fantastic. He's contributed in. As soon as we bought him, he was the one signing that put a smile on my face, and then obviously it went down from there. But with him, I do like the player that he is. I think the way he left Brighton's a little bit worrying. He didn't turn up quite a lot, and he refused to obviously go in. I think that's a little bit worrying, the case that it happens to us. But Mikel seems to have got decent performances out of him. I can't really give him no higher than. I'm actually going to lower it. I'm going to give him a 5.5 because I can't give him any higher because at the end of the day, same as Jorginho, he come in January. He's had some good performances, but then I haven't really seen too much of him. You know, I think games that he started as that sort of false 9, can't too much judge on that because I don't think that's his actual proper position. But he's done well coming in. He obviously doesn't know the Arsenal system too much. So hopefully pre-season again, same as Jorginho and Kiwa. Hopefully he can go in there and get some proper experience and start kicking on next season. But with me, Trossard, fantastic signing. I think that was our signing of January. I know we've only had 3 options there, but I definitely think that's a signing of January. And I expect him to really give challenges to that front line, honestly.
Completely agree. And, I'd actually give him a standard 6 because I think he has been the best of our January signings. He's proved his worth and importance to Arteta this season. Let's not forget he came in and ended up starting over Eddie Nketiah when the Hale End boy just flattered to deceive. So, yeah, I'll give him a standard 6. I mean, giving him a 5.5 might be a little bit harsh, really.
Definitely.
He's come in. He's shown that he is eager to contribute to the cause. And, yeah, I'll give him a standard 6.
Definitely. Now, the man who has caused the fan base to divide a few times, but I believe pretty much everyone on his side, apart from Lee Gunner, Mikel Arteta. Man, where do I start? With him, I can see what he's done this season. He's fantastic. I do agree that we've had a very good season, but what hasn't made it a great season is obviously no silverware. We've got to remember that he's only won an FA Cup. I'm not counting the Community Shield, so he's only just won the FA Cup in 2020. It's going to be a make or break season for me next season for him. I'm going to give him. God, I don't know if I'm going to be too harsh on this one. This is the thing; it's harsh, but it's true. I'm going to give him a 6 as well. I'm going to give him a 6. Yeah, the reason why I'm not going any higher is because where I used to criticize his man management, I will criticize that again. Last season we bottled top 4. This season we got into top 4, but didn't get the league. Standard 6 for me, man, because I just think that he's a quality manager. He's got that quality stuff about him, but then I do see a little bit of Wenger in him where he's very stubborn. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely loved when Wenger was winning loads of trophies, etc., playing some proper ball. But how that ended, it wasn't very good in the end. But with Mikel, I do think this is a make or break season. I want a trophy. I don't want no flipping excuses. I don't want us to run our way out of the FA Cup quick. I think I've got to give him some praise for the way we've played this season, but then other times I have to criticise him because leaving Kieran Tierney out, not bringing Saka out for a rest, not not really doing much in that respect. But he's learning on the job, as we all know. But yeah, I'd give him a 6 this season. Yeah.
I suppose the 6 would really be as good as it gets because, look, let me make something crystal clear. He's been at the club now for 3 full seasons and a half, having replaced Unai Emery. And let's also not forget that when you consider the amount of backing that he's been getting, and also, I mean, the time he's had, let's not forget, he really should have had us doing a lot better. And I know he might want to try and claim some other factors at play, but there are only so many times that you can possibly do that. And then again, segues back into the issue that you can't really use Arsenal as a training college to, you can't use that as a place to learn your trade as a manager. It just doesn't work that way.
No.
And I'm still going to look at him and say, there are several things he should do a lot better, but he just won't, because he won't listen to anyone, really. He likes to think of himself as more of his own man, his way or the highway. And sometimes it's just, when it doesn't work, he has to hold his hand up and accept that. And he just doesn't do that at times. This particular season, I mean, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, last year I gave him probably about a 3 because of the way we lost top 4, the way Aubameyang never got replaced, and this season has been a much better improvement in my opinion.
Agreed,
yeah,
bear in mind,
he has had the backing. Even Unai Emery never got that backing. Even in some expectations, Wenger never got that backing. So he is getting that backing, and if he doesn't prove to me next season that he's worth it, I think it's time to say goodbye, And I know a lot of people want this long-term manager, 20 years down the line, we still have him. But if we ain't doing what we're doing and we ain't winning stuff, then I can't see it being any further. I think the board employed him out of just the cheapest option in many ways. Lack of experience, the board never took consideration about that. I know he was under Pep as Pep's assistant, but even Pep don't let all these secrets out, as we saw when we got slapped away at the Etihad. But with Mikel, I do like him, but it is going to be a make or break season because he's been here a long time already,
Yeah, well, I'm going to sort of drop the ball here and say that I'm one of many people who aren't enamored by him, but I am willing to give him his props if and when he deserves it. But again, if we want to credit him immensely for the magnificent start that we had this season, we also have to take a look at the way we bottled the league and say that he was in many ways culpable. Because let's not be under any impressions that he wasn't quite responsible for the team's poor transfer activity. As manager, obviously, he should have had an input there, and he would have almost certainly had an input. So I don't think in many ways that Arteta can escape blame, especially if, he's just willing to go along with what Edu would tell him. One would think that if a guy is strong enough to stick to his principles when it comes to dealing with certain players, you would think that he would be smart enough to recognize that if things aren't quite going his way with regard to, transfers or what have you, that he'd pretty much be at Edu's door saying, "What's going on here? Why aren't you helping me out with this?" And the more I think about it, the more a lot of people are thinking that maybe Arteta is in some ways in on this because he isn't really willing to kick up a stink about it. And the biggest managers will make it very clear that a good transfer policy is the be-all and end-all. So for me, I suppose a 6 would perhaps be a somewhat fair rating, especially if we're going. And he should be lucky that we're going based on the Premier League because let's not forget he bottled the cup competitions.
Yep.
And we could have won trophies there too, mind. So I suppose I could give him a 6, but as you and I can both agree, he is going to be marked next season because having taken the team to as high as second, nothing else except first would probably do. And there are going to be some fans who will say, well, you know what? It is going to take some time. We have shown that we are capable. If you're not willing to trust this process, then just get the hell out of the way. No, we're not going to get the hell out of the way. We've seen the team win silverware quite quickly. Arsene Wenger won the double in his second full season with us, with the old venerated back four and some of the finest midfield talent the club would ever get to see, admittedly, but he still managed to do that. So there's no reason why, if Arteta is as good as people claim he is, why we shouldn't have any expectations for higher. So I'll tell you what, I will give him a 6, but he is also going to be very, very, very heavily marked this coming season. Believe you me.
I think a 6 for just the Premier League, but I'd probably give him a 4 for the actual season. You know, because the way we went out of cup competitions, it's like Wenger never took the Carabao Cup or the Energy Drink Cup seriously, and Mikel has fallen into that category, as well as not even taking the FA Cup seriously when you're going to one of the best teams, best team in England, Manchester City. You're playing a weaker team. Maybe it wasn't to give all these tactics out to Pep, but that ended up coming biting him back in the arse anyway. So with Mikel, it's a make or break one next season. He has to get it right, or there's going to be a lot of fans, including myself and probably you, Manny, who's going to be right at him going, what's going on? What is going on? Because he needs to make sure that this board is going to back him, because I've seen a lot of Wenger in Mikel where he will take the criticism for not getting these players in when it's probably down to the board more than him. With Edu as well, I do think he needs to get it spot on this year as well, this season. Otherwise, he's got to go as well. I know he's a legend and that, but he will have to take that on the chin. But we're gonna do a team rating, an overall team rating. I would give the full team probably 6.5. I think we done what we needed to do with the Champions League, but we just didn't get past the final hurdle, which was the Premier League, which I know no one expected this season, but let's be real, when we was expecting it, we then fell apart, and it just didn't end up too good for us, you know.
Targets change. I mean, look at how Leicester approached their season in 2016 under Ranieri. They kept winning all their games. They made it clear that they just wanted to do as well as they could and avoid relegation. Even if potentially winning the league might have been in their minds, they never allowed it to become front and center. They never allowed themselves to get cocky or overconfident. And it was only when they had passed all of their tests that they started to realize, you know what, we might just be onto something here. And that's the experience, that's the approach that we should have adopted, and we failed to do, and we ended up paying the price for it. So I would certainly give the Premiership team a 7 out of 10, because I don't want to be too harsh on them, but for the overall season, it can't be that high. I think exiting the Cups was completely inexcusable, and that whole Europa League thing is why I don't want to rate Ramsdale too highly. I mean, couldn't save a single penalty, got lobbed from the halfway line, and people talk about his save from the ex-Tottenham youth player Marcus Edwards, but you know, any goalkeeper worth his salt would be trusted to make that sort of save. But again, you know, the Premiership season would be good enough for a 7, but no more than that.
Yeah, no more for the Premiership season. We are at the end of the show, so we're going to get Manny to shout out all his social medias before we do some news, which isn't exciting news, guys. It is just a little bit of news. But Manny, if you'd like to shout out your Instagrams and that.
Will do. First of all, let me just apologize for giving you the impression that I'd bailed on you. I would never do that. I just, shut the camera off for a bit because I was, resting my eyes, as they would say.
No, that's all right,
but big up to you for having me on, MK. Always love doing a stream with you. Definitely a real one. We talk. It's real talk with a real Arsenal fan. Love. I mean, even if we may slightly disagree, we always respect one another And that's the way I like to conduct things whenever I go on streams, regardless of whichever channel it is. So, let's keep that spirit going, and that's the way it should be. Simple as that. As I said, big up to you, big up to the other channels where you can find me on Instagram. I mean, on YouTube rather. And coming to Instagram, my socials, that's my full name and add my year of birth, 1981. Manny Thangatherai 1981. That is where you will find me if you want to have a close connection. If you want to catch me on Twitter, getting stuck into a few debates in football, politics, or what have you, it's my surname and my year of birth, Thangatherai 1981. And to all of the YouTube channels where you can find me, I don't know if I have the energy to name all of you, but you are exceptionally important to me in many ways, and I'm really, really grateful to come on and speak and just show my face and lend my voice and be a part of the debate. And there's really nothing much except there's a new grind coming up, and there will be some exciting football to come from the end of the season. I believe we've got the Conference League final on Wednesday and the Champions League final on the Saturday. So I hope you all enjoy this upcoming week and enjoy the football on offer. And once again, congratulations to Aaron and Georgina. I hope you enjoy the process of being parents and take care of the of your child. To all of you who are watching, who joined in the chat, you're the ones who make this video and Mason's channel what they are. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Have a good upcoming week. Don't do anything that MK or I wouldn't do. But for now, time to say good night to all of you.
Absolute legend. Absolute legend. Thank you so much for coming on, Manny. Obviously, some news at the end of the show. I will be taking a small break off YouTube for a little bit. I will be coming back on for transfer business as normal. But I will be taking a couple of weeks off just to reflect on a long-ass season and to get a little bit of break from it all. But thank you guys so much for your support since this channel was made in December. Honestly, I couldn't have done anything without you guys. You guys, like Manny said, you guys in the comments who smash the likes, who subscribe, you guys are making me do this and keep on me going, keep the momentum going. So thank you all so much for that. I'll see you guys in a bit. Make sure you like and subscribe. AFC Talk Show TV is on Instagram as well. Also, my Instagram is, let me just quickly get rid of this bit,
MK the Don.
14. Don't forget the 14. That's my legend. Anyways, it's goodbye from us. Thank you very much. And we'll see you guys very soon. Thank you very much.
Cheers.